Egypt and South Sudan are offering to mediate between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary rapid support forces who began fighting in Khartoum and towns across the country. In a phone conversation between the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his South Sudan counterpart Salva Kiir on Sunday, the two most influential direct neighbors to Sudan called on both sides in the power struggle to choose the voice of reason and peaceful dialogue.
Dear President, the Arab Republic of Egypt stresses the extreme importance of ensuring the safety and security of all Egyptian interests in Sudan. Egypt remains, through all its institutions, in contact with the Egyptian embassy in Khartoum and all of our consulates in Port Sudan and Wadi Haifa, to follow up on the Egyptian communities there and the educational missions there, including students and teachers, from Al-Azhar, Irrigation Ministry, the National Bank of Egypt, Egyptair, Middle East News Agency, private sector companies, and others representing the many facets of support and cooperation between the two countries.
The armed forces were on the lookout, engaged with them and was able to take control of the situation and to turn back the attacking forces. The armed forces was also able to achieve what is an embarrassing number of losses for the other side, but there are still a few more places left where the rebels had taken over in cities near Khartoum.
Now, research fellow at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Dr. Joshua Bolarin, joins us now to provide perspective on the situation in Sudan. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. Let's just get straight into it. Now, regarding the calls for a ceasefire and, peace, we've seen numerous individuals and countries call for that in Sudan, including the Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari. I'm wondering if you think that will have any significant effect.
Yes, it will have significant effect. Although Sudan had been in this recent crisis since 2019, when former long-serving President al-Bashir was ousted in 2019, and the military took over. They took the opportunity of the long protest by the people, and they took over the government. When they took over the reins of government, the military decided to say, okay, we'll return the government back to civilian rule. But it took a long time when the protesters said, no, please, let's do this thing together or return to civilian rule. That's what we wanted. But they did not accept that, so they formed a joint military-civilian government. And as they did that, everything still did not go well until another coup happened in 2021. And since that time, there have been no peace in Sudan. There have been no agreement between the civilian authorities and that of the military authorities. And until recently now, the fighting between the armed forces and that of the rapid support forces has been a fight in the few days between the head of the military junta, General Al-Bohan, and his deputy, General Dagalo. You can imagine the president, the head of state, and his deputy are the one fighting each other. And each controlled his own forces. For example, the head of state, the General Al-Bohan, controls the armed forces, while his deputy controls the rapid support forces. Both are fighting over claim to power and return of government to civilian rule. So they did not agree. So in the past few months, they have agreed to say there will be elections, so date, 3 months, 6 months. All of them have been postponed. So they did not heed or stick to their promises. And this had led to power struggle, fighting between the head of state and his deputy. And since Sunday night or Saturday up till now, they have been fighting, but only on Sunday that the medical doctor says they should give them the space so that the casualties, the number of deaths, or the sick people that they want to treat will have the opportunity to move. So that's why there have been calls at the international community to stop the fighting. Egypt, South Sudan, Kenyan government, even the United States had called for ceasefire. The Arab League has called for ceasefire. The African Union has decided to send the top military envoy, Ambassador Vicky, to go and negotiate a ceasefire in Khartoum. So even the IGAD, Intergovernmental Development Organization in Eastern Region, they have also agreed to send the president of Sudan, the president of Djibouti, and that of, I think, Eritrea to join them so that they can go and negotiate ceasefire. So the AU and other neighboring countries and other regional bodies like IGAD, even the United States, are all calling for a ceasefire. And that's why the Nigerian government too are led by the President Muhammadu Bolarin. They are also calling for a ceasefire so that they can agree between the head of state and the deputy can agree on how to move forward, and more importantly, to return the country to a civilian rule.
Okay, thank you so much for putting that in context for us. Now, this fight, we know, broke out over an apparent power struggle between the two main factions of Sudan's military regime, especially on how to integrate the RSF into the military. So what do you think needs to happen to see this disagreement settled? I mean, we are seeing reports of this two-day clash and about a 97% mortality, 97 people who had lost their lives just over the past 2 days. So what do you think needs to be done to end this disagreement?
You know, when you listen to them or you hear what is causing such problem, looking to a large number of deaths. In fact, some other people are saying it is over 100 deaths, while some media, particularly the social media, is reporting about 97 deaths. You know, the deputy General Dagalo is trying to let the head of state, General Abahau, that controls the military, the Sudanese military force or armed forces, while the rapid support forces are controlled by the deputy, Dagalo. So Dagalo is trying to say that the rapid support services should be integrated into the Sudanese armed forces. And now they are fighting over, even when they are now being integrated, they are fighting over who will now control them together. So it's a fight, it's a power struggle between the president or the head of state and his deputy over power struggle. And if they are integrated now into the armed forces, the rapid support forces, if they are integrated into the armed forces, it will lead to cracks in the armed forces. Not only cracks in the armed forces, it will lead to further disintegration in the Sudanese armed forces, which already have been disintegrated for over 2 to 3 years, because they will be fighting over return of the government to civilian rule and staging elections or preparing for elections and let the country return to civil rule. But all of this, they've not agreed about it. And yet, the head of state or the head of the military junta, Abahan, controls the armed forces, while his deputy controls the rapid support force. And now the deputy is saying they should integrate the rapid support military or force into the main military of the Sudanese armed forces. All of these have been the major issues, the major problems. But moving forward is that if they can agree to integrate them and form an integrated armed forces, and they return the country to civilian rule through a timetable for elections, electioneering, and return to civil rule proper, then Sudan may see a relative peace or stability in over 2 to 3 years when they have ousted the former president al-Bashir. So the problem is the main head of state and his deputy. Even the two of them are causing so much problem because of selfish interest. One wants to control one, the other one wants to control the other, and now integrating the two who will control both together now. That is the issue. And now this is leading to the deaths of so many Sudanese and innocent civilians. This is too selfish. This is too barbaric. This is too backward.
Indeed.
And this has to stop. And that's what the African Union is trying to say to them. Let there be ceasefire. Stop fighting. And that's what IGAD is saying. Stop fighting. Neighboring countries, South Sudan, Kenya, even Djibouti, all of them are clamoring for a ceasefire. Even the United States has already made a statement they should maintain a ceasefire. So we hope this ceasefire will happen in few days. But now, team of the AU, they're on their way to Khartoum. The IGAD team on their way to Khartoum too. So let's see what will happen, as we have seen in the case of the Ethiopia-Tigray region, which was brokered in South Africa too. So let's see what will happen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bolarin. Now, speaking of the African Union, they have mentioned that they will be sending their top diplomat to try to, negotiate a ceasefire. Egypt and also, we understand, South Sudan have also offered to mediate between the warring factions. My question is, who do you think, in terms of individuals or a country, would be in the best position to mediate between the warring factions?
In the best position is the African Union. The African Union is a continental body that controls, that has the framework to maintaining peace and stability in the region, to propel development, cooperation, and integration among all the countries within the continent. So the best organization, the best neutral body in the position to maintain ceasefire, to organize peace and stability talks or peace talks is the AU. But the IGAD in which Sudan is a member, also neighboring countries, also powerful countries like the US, all can also be there as observers. They can be there as observers, they can be there as people who will also contribute to the peace process in that country. Sudan is a country that has witnessed a lot of violence, even about 2 civil wars, initially between the North and the South. In 2011, South was allowed to go on its own after a referendum to stand on its own as a country since 2011. But all the same, even since the country has divided into 2, Republic of Sudan and that of Republic of South Sudan, both countries, particularly Sudan, has also not seen peace. Look at in Western Sudan is the issue of Darfur crisis and all of that. So the only good arbiter is the African Union. The African Union will be able to broker a ceasefire through its top diplomat, Ambassador Musa Faki Mahamat, is the head of the AU Commission. He will go there and try to bring the 2 warring factions together. They will discuss and bring in other stakeholders like IGAD, like the US, and also even some neighboring countries like Djibouti, Kenya, and that of South Sudan.
Okay.
All their presidents have come together under IGAD and send it there to go and discuss it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joshua Bolarin. We'll continue to follow this story. Thank you for being here on A News Day.